Hi everyone, welcome to True Mysteries. I am Natalie, and today's case that I'm going to be talking to you about is the Amber Aiaz and Melissa Fu case. So I am just a normal person that just looked at all missing people, all the people that have disappeared throughout all the years to try and get them noticed, to get their case out there for people to actually not forget them. So what I am here to do is to get their face back out there, to get their stories told, and for it to keep going on so we can try and find these missing people and to make sure that they're not forgotten. So I'm doing this for their families, and let's hope they get brought home and justice is going to be served. So on to the case of Amber Aiaz and Melissa Fu. So this is a mother and a daughter's case. So let's start off with Amber. So Amber Aiaz was a 34-year-old at the time of her disappearance. She has black hair, brown eyes, 5'9", weighing 180 pounds, and she is Asian. So Amber was last seen wearing a black shirt, a black vest, fitted black pants with white writing and light coloured shoes. Amber Aiaz and her daughter Melissa Fu were last seen on Friday, November 22nd, 2019 at approximately 6 p.m. And this was at their residence, which is located in the area of Mitchelson Drive and the University Drive in Irvine in California. There are suspicious circumstances surrounding their disappearance, and two people seen in the vicinity of their residence near the time of their disappearance. They had been brought in for questioning. The unknown individuals are possibly associated with a black Cadillac known as an unknown model. They are described as a Chinese female in her 40s, approximately 5'8", with an average build and black hair worn in a bun. And the male is a Chinese male also in his 40s, approximately 5'10", weighing 190 pounds. And he has an average build and short black hair. If anyone has any information concerning on the kidnappings of these individuals, any tips, or if they've seen anything on that day, if things seemed a bit suspicious, then they are to contact the FBI of Los Angeles field office on 310-477-6565. Tips can also be submitted anonymously also. Amber Aiaz also used the alias as Mi Yi Wu. Amber Aiaz's husband is called Cheng Zhang, and Melissa Fu was Cheng's stepdaughter. Cheng had waited more than a week to report the kidnappings. Cheng was a 42-year-old Uber driver, and he said that he had been knocked out by a stranger at his door with an unidentifiable mist substance. He cleaned a lot of blood from the carpet, and he followed the kidnappers' instructions to behave in a very usual manner, posing as his missing wife on WeChat. He told his stepdaughter's school that the missing 7th grader was sick at home. All of this helped to establish Zhang as a suspect number one when he approached the police on December 2nd, 2019. Interrogating him for hours on end, police told him that his story was absolutely impossible. Experiences told detectives that the husband had killed his wife and stepdaughter was a far simpler and more believable scenario that happened. Irvine advised itself as America's safest mid-sized city, and for a year and a half its police department said little about the unsolved disappearances of 34-year-old Amber Aiaz and her daughter Melissa Fu, a student at Rancho San Joaquin Middle School. A pair of Bare Bones News had generated few leads as well. There was what was called a very exhaustive investigation, including more than 40 hours of interviews with Zhang and parallel investigation by the FBI and detectives. And they say that they have not been able to disprove Zhang's bizarre account. Instead, police said that it proved very consistent on point after point. Irvine Police Detective Haldor Laram had said, quote, "We have to be open to alternative possibilities," police said. "We have exhausted every lead that we have to try and tie him to this disappearance." And this is about Zhang. One theory was a Gone Girl, quote, scenario in which Aiaz fled with her daughter for reasons unknown to another city or country. But there are arguments against it. The 7th grader, who used to talk to her grandmother daily, has not contacted her since. Aiaz has not touched her bank accounts in America. Their passports were still in their apartment. The Chinese government says she hasn't touched any accounts in her native China either, nor she or her daughter entered the country since they had gone and vanished. Quote, "At no point since their disappearance have they surfaced on any database." And this was said by the Irvine police. Detective Supervisor Mark Andreozzi, quote, "It's really hard to stay off the grid with a team of detectives and the FBI looking for you for this long." That makes another theory seem more likelier by the day that Aiaz and her daughter are dead, the victims of an uncommonly efficient and sophisticated broad daylight kidnapping that became a double homicide. Zhang, who was never charged in the case, could not be reached for any comments. Police says he now lives in Los Angeles and fears the organised crime which he blames for the kidnappings. According to the police reports and the interviews with Irvine detectives, Zhang said it began with a knock on the door of his small apartment on Mitchelson Drive about 4:30 p.m. on November the 22nd, 2019. Zhang was then at his home with his stepdaughter. He said his wife was driving home from Las Vegas with a carload of fruit and fish that they planned to sell at a local supermarket. By Zhang's account, he answered the door to find a man and a woman that he did not recognize. The woman held something in her right hand, and then he felt something wet and misty on his face, and then he collapsed. He woke up on the dining room floor hours later and found a lot of bloodstains on the carpet and a bloody handprint on the kitchen wall. His stepdaughter was gone. His wife, who should have been home by then, was also gone too. Zhang, a Chinese immigrant who speaks little English, said that he found a handwritten note on a white lined paper in Chinese, and it had told him that his wife and stepdaughter were okay, that they would be home in a few days, and if you contact the police, you will not see them again. This is what the note had said. "Clean their apartment, act normal, we are watching you." He found his wife's Ford Explorer outside in its usual spot with the expected freight of fruit and fish. He contacted buyers on WeChat and sold the food. In the days that followed, he would then wake to find someone had slipped notes under his door. They repeated key themes as "they are fine," "you will see them soon," "clean the carpet," "tidy the house," and "just do as we say." Zhang had the bloody patches of the carpet cut right out and replaced them. He tried then to remove the bloody handprint. And that was on the wall with a lot of bleach, then painted straight over it. He went to his stepdaughter's school and lied and said that she was ill on the Wednesday, 5 days after the disappearances. He received a fifth note. It reassured him that his wife and stepdaughter is okay, but instructed him to leave town for at least 2 days. So he drove to Las Vegas and stayed with a relative and then returned back home 2 days later. And this was to find a sixth and final note, quote, "They are fine. Clean the carpet again. Clean the house again. You will see them on Monday." When they did not appear, Zhang said he decided to call the police, who noticed that he was very conspicuously nervous that he might be seen talking to them. He insisted on spending the night on a couch at the police station rather than returning home. Zhang said he did not know who had kidnapped his wife and his stepdaughter or why there had been no demand for any ransom money. But he was afraid that the kidnappers were actually watching him, and a detective wrote in a report, quote, "I informed Zhang that the story seemed very impossible." Quote, "He said he understood this and said yes, that it seemed impossible, but denied being involved in the disappearance and hurting them." Starting the day, Zhang reported his wife and stepdaughter missing on December 2019 until mid-January 2020. 44 days in all, dozens of detectives worked in shifts to try and surveillance him all around the clock. Maybe he would meet with a co-conspirator or a paramour. Maybe he would lead cops to the bodies, but his very predictable routine suggested that a existence of small compass. He woke up at 7 a.m. but rarely left his apartment except just for a cigarette break. On the patio, the investigators then followed him by foot. This was then into the Zion Mart across the street where he had gone and shopped. They followed him in an unmarked car when he had jogged through during the time. Aiaz said, quote, "We never saw him do anything suspicious." People who knew Zhang described him to the police as non-assertive man who avoided any conflict and typically acquiesced to his wife. Zhang said that they married in 2017, broke up after he discovered she had an affair in China, then got together again. It's bolstered that his credibility that he was 100% cooperative with the investigation. This is what Andriozzi had gone and said. He would say, "What do you guys need?" He has helped us to also find evidence that he destroyed. For instance, he led the police search his apartment and also directed them to the bloody handprint that was under the paint on the kitchen wall. Forensic techs found the replaced patches of carpet, peeled them, and found blood on the padding underneath. Tests led them to believe that it was his wife's blood. Detectives then interviewed Zhang's neighbours at the sprawling Mitchelson Drive apartment complex. One had seen him carrying out a large cooler, another large storage container. Had these contained the bodies, detectives had long wondered. No, Zhang said he was cleaning out his apartment. What about the jagged cut near his left thumb, which had been very conspicuous? When the police met him, he said his cleaver had slipped as he was cutting meat. then demonstrated with a knife, indicating the dull edge that had gone and caught him. One element of his story seemed at first easy to debunk, quote, the mystery spray, that he said had rendered him instantly unconscious. Quote, I never heard of a spray knocking out, said Irvine Police Detective Gavin Hudson, but the FBI said such substances did actually exist. One was an anesthetic called fluothane, and its use suggests a kidnapping of an unusual sophistication. Hudson interrogated Zhang in a company of Detective Victor Chang, who translated in Mandarin. Hudson said that the turning point for him, the moment he began to seriously consider that Zhang might not be the culprit, was on January the 15th, 2020. He said Zhang came to the station and voluntarily answered questions from morning right up until midnight, while a FBI behaviorist studied him. Investigators surprised him with a request for a polygraph, and he agreed immediately to take it and showed no deception. Through it all, Zhang's account remained the same, one he told for the last 6 weeks of all the interrogations. If it was all to be elaborated lie, police said it had been so flawlessly memorized that it would have challenged the memory of a professional actor, much less a seemingly simple man. Quote, he did not waver. Hudson said, quote, we all came back and said, quote, we can't tie him to this. Detectives think that the solution may lie in Amber Aiaz's past, in her history with men that was in Las Vegas or in China, or in what they believed were her habitual exaggerations about money. According to the police reports, she had convinced Zhang that she had millions of dollars. And this was in investments and hundreds of thousands in cash. Zhang reacted with disbelief when police had showed him proof that his wife had been virtually broke. Quote, Amber told everybody in her life she had money. Detective Laram had said an interview suggested that she had angered people who felt that she had gone and swindled them. Some had even made threats. One theory is that kidnappers took her in the expectation that she would lead them to the money she did not in fact possess. The case generated despite the facts that the FBI put Aiaz and Fu on its most wanted kidnapping and missing persons list. Quote, in a year and a half, we've gotten just 4 tips. This is what Larum had said. Insisting on his innocence, Zhang made the point that if he had been involved in the kidnappings, there was no reason for him to go and report the crime at all. Police might not have learned about it without him. Quote, he had said, I'm a nobody in this country. I can disappear, Detective Chang said. The FBI is offering $10,000 reward for any information that helps to solve this crime. Amber Aiaz was originally born in Dalian, China on June the 25th, 1985 as Wu Mi, later adopting the nickname Melissa. She moved to Chicago in 2005. It was there she gave birth to a daughter named Fu Heiho, nicknamed Melissa, and this was in 2007. However, it was shortly thereafter that her husband passed away of cancer. Amber briefly took her daughter back to China to raise with the support of her family, but when she realized that she could not be able to afford sending Melissa to any school, she made the move back to the United States, this time landing in Las Vegas. She found success starting up a seafood grocery business. In 2017, Amber and Cheng Zhang began dating. but it is unclear when or even if they're even married. Sources are mixed on that. It is known that briefly they had separated in 2018. Leading up to her disappearance, Amber told a few people she was stalked by a black vehicle on multiple different occasions. Okay, so that is what I could find online regarding this case. So what I want to do is I want people to share this video, try and get them noticed, try and get their faces up, on the internet. We need to try and find these people. Their families are worried, they're worried sick. They want to know where their family is, the ones that have disappeared and, left no trace. So I really hope that they do find them. I really hope this video goes out there for their families to prove that we are out there, we are supporting their family, we're trying to get them back out there, their faces back out there, and that they need justice for whatever have happened to them, and hopefully they can come home back to their family. Okay then everyone, I am Natalie and this is True Mysteries.